Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Consider the Source. Continuing our spooky season entries, I wanted to talk about a little known project that seems to have been skipped over a lot in the fear category, and specifically with the Hannibal Lecter series. It's Red Dragon, which came out in 2002, and it stars again Sir Anthony Hopkins, Edward Norton as Will Graham, and Hannibal Lecter, respectively. And it's basically a prequel movie to Silence of the Lambs, and I don't think it gets the attention that it quite deserves. So that's what I'd like to talk about today, and let's get into it.
This is a very shy boy, Will.
I know what it's like to have people always thinking that you're different.
He is refining his methods. He is evolving.
What am I doing here?
No one will ever be safe around you, Will.
A note hidden in Lecter's cell.
The killer wants Lecter to answer him through the personal columns.
Lecter gave me your home address.
Hi. I'm a friend of your father's.
Open your eyes.
No. I am the dragon.
Give me what I need.
Before me, you tremble.
I'll call you if I think of anything else. Would you perhaps like to leave me your home number?
Yeah, so that's Red Dragon. And as far as I guess you'd call it the quadrilogy of the Hannibal Lecter stories, not counting the TV show, which I've never seen, so don't come at me in the comments. Yes, I know that it's good. I've heard nothing but good things about it. There's nothing I can do about it now. It's gone too far, and I'm not interested in getting into it, and I've already heard too many spoilers about it. As far as the books, yes, I've read all of the books, including Hannibal Rising, and they sort of depreciate as they go on. Surprisingly enough, this is one of the ones that gets looked over, even though technically, with the 1986 87 made almost for TV movie, Manhunter by Michael Mann, which starred Willie Peterson in the Will Graham role as a more grizzled, almost Miami Vice type detective, which is not unsurprising because Miami Vice creator actually wrote and directed that. And Brian Cox is the Hannibal Lecter character. And to this day, a lot of people affirm that their stance is that Brian Cox is maybe the superior Hannibal Lecter. The jury's still out on that one. Some people like the TV version. Most people are familiar with and or like Sir Anthony Hopkins. That's obviously my favorite. But a lot of people like Brian Cox, and it's worth a look if for no other reason. But they changed the title from Red Dragon to Manhunter, and I remember seeing it on TV shortly after I went and saw Silence of the Lambs. It had a kind of resurgence. It had not done very well, but on home video and cable re-release after Silence of the Lambs had become so successful in '91, it sort of got a bit of a revival, and it's not bad. It's interesting if nothing else. But for the rest of this, as far as this goes, Red Dragon is definitely the superior film, and it's probably the closest that comes to the source material to the book. It's one of those things that it took a long time to get to the screen, and at the time, 2002, we're over 10 years from Silence of the Lambs. And obviously, if it's supposed to be a prequel, a de-aged Sir Anthony Hopkins is not ideal. But I think that Edward Norton really knocks it out of the park. I like everything that they do in it. And for the uninitiated of the viewers here, as you know, I usually talk about the book versus its adaptation. The book is very good. However, I will say the book leaves a lot of things open ended. And spoilers up to the end scene where the Tooth Fairy, played in the film by Ray Fiennes, who is sort of kind of like a counter Buffalo Bill type. He's another serial killer that's running around, and Will Grimm solicits uh, Hannibal Lecter's help in tracking him down. The reason why he does this is because there's been several murders done on the lunar cycle, and the Tooth Fairy is likely to go strike again. Ray Fiennes plays the character very well. I definitely enjoy what it is that he does with the character. I think he fleshes it out almost perfectly. He's everybody's firing on all cylinders with this. The Tooth Fairy is really a disturbing serial killer, and definitely not one of the ones that you're going to forget right away. So once investigator Will Graham gets put on his case, and he gets Lecter to help him, it becomes kind of a cat and mouse game of him trying to do the same thing that Clarice was doing in Silence of the Lambs. And I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've probably seen Silence of the Lambs or read the book, hopefully. The book adaptation of Silence of the Lambs is extremely faithful. This one is not. And in this way, it is actually superior to the source material, because the final confrontation between the Tooth Fairy, when Hannibal Lecter puts the Tooth Fairy on, Will's scent, so to speak, to come after his wife and young son. In the novel, it's actually a girlfriend and her, or maybe they're married. I'm not sure, but it's a son from a previous marriage. So Will is already a bit of an outsider because of that, and not only that, but also because of his job. Because what he's really good at is putting himself in the mind of these serial killers and going after them. I've been told it's sort of fleshed out a little bit more in the TV series, but again, I'm not getting into the TV series, and that's going to be a video for another day if I ever get around to watching the show. But Will finds himself in a precarious position in the novel where the Tooth Fairy knows where he lives. He's trained his wife to utilize a weapon in case something goes wrong. Of course, something does at the end after we are led to believe that the Tooth Fairy is unalived himself, and it's actually a bait and switch. He's actually killed somebody else, made it look like himself, and used uh, the teeth that he had before he had them removed as dental records. So they think they've got him, and he's actually going after investigator Will Graham and his family. So in the novel, Will basically is a coward, and he kind of just throws a fishing lure into the face of the Tooth Fairy, and then the Tooth Fairy goes after the wife and the kiddo. And what winds up happening is the wife winds up saving the day and blowing his brains out. And that's about it. And then Will is, just like in the film, he's slashed up in the face pretty good, and he's messed up. And the wife winds up leaving him, and he winds up becoming an alcoholic, going out on a boat. So, not super great ending. Whereas in the film, there's actually a real visceral confrontation, and Will Graham has to use not only his physical prowess, but he has to use a little bit of what he knows about the killer in a very, very clever way in order to overcome him. And it's a really good scene. It's a really good climax to the film. So in that way, I think this is definitely one of the ones that deserves a second look. I don't know how well or bad that it did in the theater, but I know it pretty much wasn't well received. A lot of people were wondering why they're even bothering with this. It was still several years away from the TV show coming out. It had been several years away from Silence of the Lambs had already come out and run its gamut. It was 2 years away from a failed adaptation of the book Hannibal in 2000, where Clarice Starling was recast with Julianne Moore, and that had not done very well. So a lot of people were wondering why they even bothered with this. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, but of the three, believe it or not, I find this to be the superior film. And of the trilogy, I don't really count Hannibal Rising in that. I mean, it's an okay read, and I understand that there's a film made about that as well, but it doesn't interest me. As far as I'm concerned, there's just the three movies and the three books. As far as the adaptation goes, yes, this differs greatly towards the third and final act of the story, but I think that they do a much superior job with it, and it's definitely worth taking a look at again. And it's definitely one of the spooky season films that will kind of keep you on the edge of your seat if you've not seen it, or if you've not seen it in a long time, or you watched the TV show or the Manhunter version and you've not seen this version or given it a chance because you didn't see a point. I highly, highly recommend you checking it out. So Red Dragon 2002 with Edward Norton and Sir Anthony Hopkins. Excellent, excellent film, and definitely superior to the source material. And that's all I got for this one today, guys. So go check it out.